defending the inbounds throw-in. The lob for Butler, he did it! Jimmy Butler put it in with 0.3 of a second left and got fouled!
The Miami Heat are the Eastern Conference team with the most playoff wins since 1997. More importantly, the Florida franchise has developed a unique identity despite the departure of legends such as LeBron James and Dwyane Wade. An identity that's also based on Erik Spoelstra, conductor of one of the most incredible engineering masterworks in NBA history. So, are the 2023 Miami Heat the best underdog story? It was in 1997 when Spoelstra got an assistant coaching position with the Miami franchise, after working for 2 years as the Heat's video coordinator. Erik had just finished a degree in communications at the University of Portland, where he played 4 years in the NCAA. After being automatically declared for the 1992 NBA draft and going undrafted, he tried to earn an overseas basketball career. He had the opportunity to be an assistant coach as well as a player in a German second division team, but back problems forced him to step away from the courts to fully dedicate himself to the bench. Finally, in 1995, he landed the position of video coordinator for the Miami Heat. Pat Riley had just arrived at the franchise as head coach, so Miami's entire coaching staff changed completely. However, the young man's tremendous work ethic convinced Pat Riley to push him on his meteoric rise within the franchise. From video coordinator to assistant coach and director of scouting, Erik went through the entire coaching staff hierarchy until finally being named head coach in 2008, becoming the first coach of Asian descent, Spo's mother Elisa Salino's Filipino, in the history of the 4 major leagues. However, the job he faced was not an easy one. First of all, he had to make up for the performance of one of the greatest coaching legends in NBA history, and if that wasn't enough, just 2 seasons after his arrival, this happened.
In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
What for Miami Heat fans was a blessing, for coaches can be a nightmare. When you're in charge of a super team, expectations rise exponentially. Also, the personas of superstars can be difficult to control when you're a coach without a lot of experience in the league. But it's also true that if you do a good job, the sky's the limit. The Heat won 2 championship rings with LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh, reaching 4 NBA Finals in 4 seasons, and creating one of the best dynasties in basketball history. Spoelstra included his name in the short list of coaches who have been able to win 2 championships. In addition, Spoelstra became the first Asian coach to win a major league title. His name was already in the record book. However, the Heat's next chapter would be anything but easy. When a franchise ends its dynasty, the hangover usually lasts for a while. When LeBron returned to Cleveland, Miami signed Luol Deng and tried to plug the hole instead of building a new project. But Dwyane Wade's advanced age and Chris Bosh's health issues didn't allow Miami to compete at the highest level. The Heat missed the playoffs in 3 of the next 5 seasons. With Riley choosing to stick with Spoelstra, the franchise was in need of a revamp. However, as Miami is a highly attractive destination for players, the franchise felt tanking was unnecessary. The Heat faced a rebuild without the draft, so they had to add assets by buying low and selling high. It's in summer 2019 when Pat Riley, who was and is the franchise's GM, found the perfect opportunity.
Simmons, is this the dagger?
Jimmy Butler's image in the NBA was not at its best. After forcing his way out of Chicago and Minnesota, the player was not happy with the situation in Philadelphia either. Analysts claimed that Butler was not able to excel on a competitive team, and that his attitude was a danger to any locker room. His market value was very low, and the Heat took advantage of the situation to acquire his services. That's when Miami found the perfect piece to build their new philosophy. Today, we all know what Jimmy is capable of. But when no other franchise could say for sure, the Florida franchise bet everything to build a competitive team around Butler. And boy, did they win big. The Underdog label perfectly matched the identity of their star, and the Heat have managed to qualify for 3 conference finals and 2 NBA finals in just 4 seasons, being undoubtedly the most consistent team in the East since the departure of LeBron James. Not a single fan outside of Miami would have bet on that happening, and that's completely understandable, because the reasons for the Miami Heat's success cannot be easily identified on paper. The real factors of their success are hidden in intangibles, mental toughness, and a leadership ability worthy of an army commander. And these factors are precisely the ones that cannot be observed in the same way during the regular season. But Spoelstra is not just a tremendous leader. To this day, it can be said with a fair amount of certainty that he's one of the best defensive coaches in NBA history. His ability to adjust during playoff series allows him to outcoach almost anyone in the league, and the constant switching between individual and zone defense causes nightmares for his opponents. In addition, his help systems and defensive rotations are often imitated by other coaches in the league. And if that weren't enough, Jimmy Butler's attitude represents an on-court extension of the head coach's defensive aggressiveness. When Erik has the tools, he's able to build an impenetrable fortress. But there's another aspect of Erik Spoelstra that's even more striking, and that's his ability to develop talent. Many people claim that Dwyane Wade's career would not have been the same without Erik's help during his time as an assistant under Pat Riley, and today we have more than enough evidence to believe it. Spoelstra doesn't need high draft picks to find what he wants. In fact, he usually looks for talent in those pieces that other GMs discard. His ability to turn any prospect into an above-average NBA player is similar to Greg Popovich. The Miami Heat roster currently has 9 undrafted players, 3 of whom have been starters during the season. In fact, the undrafted represent 53% of the roster spots, and the personal stories of each of them are so incredible that they seem to be straight out of a Disney script. This is probably the story of the playoffs, but behind the figure of Caleb Martin, there's another even more amazing story. It turns out that the now starting power forward of the Miami Heat grew up in the same area as J. Cole, the worldwide hip-hop superstar. The artist, famous for his breakthrough record 2014 Forest Hills Drive, has a great relationship with Caron Butler, the current Miami Heat assistant. So J. Cole, a baller himself, insisted that Caleb's game would be a perfect fit for Miami. So just 2 years later, Martin's been the second most important player in a conference finals series win over the Boston Celtics. Not only that, but the North Carolina native's $20 million 3-year contract is the biggest deal in the league right now. After being waived by the Charlotte Hornets in 2021, Caleb found his home in Miami. And his story is not so unique on a team like the Heat. Gabe Vincent, a Nigerian guard who played at UC Santa Barbara, also didn't have the opportunity to find a team through the draft. After being cut in 2019 by the Sacramento Kings without playing a single game in the NBA, he signed a 2-way contract with the Miami Heat and put himself under the guidance of Erik Spoelstra. 4 seasons later, he's become an indispensable piece of the franchise thanks to his tremendous defensive skills. Max Struss is another player who's worked his butt off to make it to the NBA. He didn't earn a spot in NCAA Division I until his junior year, but his performances in Division II attracted the attention of scouts. His career has been a constant story of achievement at all levels of basketball. After doing workouts with a huge number of franchises, he managed to play 2 NBA games during his time in Chicago, the first of them against the Miami Heat. We don't know if Spoelstra saw something in the youngster, but the following summer, the franchise acquired the services of the small forward. Today, he's become another indispensable piece of Miami's rotation. But Spoelstra's Heat also has stories of revival. Duncan Robinson's another case of a Miami player who's undrafted, but his growth and performance was much faster than in the other cases we've seen. His development was so fast that the Heat rewarded Duncan with a 5-year, $90+ million contract in 2021. However, since signing the massive contract, these past seasons have been very difficult for Robinson. His shooting ability has declined over the last few seasons, and that being his most important attribute, he's been out of the rotation for several phases of the regular season. The team's underdog attitude has completely converted his mentality, and with Tyler Hero out of the lineup, he's having himself a great playoffs. Another player who's fallen on hard times has been Kyle Lowry. The 36-year-old point guard has been able to play in only 55 games this season, and many people have forgotten the basketball skills that made him a champion with Toronto in 2019. However, when push comes to shove, he always proves to be a core leader with exceptional basketball IQ. The Heat have had a phenomenal playoff so far, embracing the role of underdog and relying on the foundation that Erik Spoelstra's built. The team's managed to make up for the loss of the most explosive scorer on their roster with the added contribution of key teammates.
Which is why they're the reason that we win so many games. I don't call them role players, I call them teammates.
These teammates have contributed more than what most NBA critics think that they're capable of. As a result, the Miami Heat are in their second finals in 4 seasons. And it goes well beyond that. What the Heat have created is not a blueprint for a playoff run, it's about an identity in the league that every team is capable of recognizing. So who is really the favorite? The conventional favorite, or the underdog team that always performs better when the odds are stacked against them?